So our Day of Innovation speakers were tasked with providing you today, as technology leaders in Southern California, across a variety of industries, to provide you with new and practical ways of looking at innovation to solve some of your uncommon and your common challenges. And all the topics of the speakers were tailored specifically for this audience by the Innovate at UCLA Planning Committee. I'd also like to take a moment to actually switch back over, to thank the board members of Innovate at UCLA. And if you see them throughout the day, please you can stop them to learn more about Innovate at UCLA and the program, and they would be happy to speak with you on those things. But a special thank you to our chair, Michael Keithley, and our vice chair, Teresa Miller, who will be chair next year, and all the board members, and you will see them around. We also have a membership table out there that Doug Goetz will talk a little bit more about that later. But we have a number of people who are involved in the program and involved in the program planning, and who volunteer their time basically to help us with these events. So I want to thank them. At this time, I'd like to welcome Don Olender, the Executive Director of Innovate at UCLA, up to the stage.
Thank you, Davida. Good morning, everyone. What can I do to entice all of you in the back to come up here to the front? Anything? If I promise you a Dodger World Series next year, maybe? Anything like that? All right, cool. Well, hopefully the traffic will subside a bit and we'll be able to get some more folks here. But I wanted to first say that we've arrived at one of the most important intersections in this organization's 41 years. As a preeminent private sector presence at UCLA, our organizational mission has always included a commitment to sharing thought leadership with faculty and students by raising awareness about and providing real-world insights into current and emerging technology trends and best practices. But that alone is no longer sufficient. Today, we see a greater opportunity to actively partner with the university, which represents a key differentiator between us and the many other technology organizations and offerings across the LA region. We have UCLA's vast educational research resources right here. It's within reach. This affiliation with the university also allows us to demonstrate our vigorous support of the school's mission by leaning into shared investments in innovation and research, directly contributing to the development of next generation workforces, and all the while continuing to provide high quality networking and educational opportunities for tech leaders across all of Southern California. As Davida said, the board, we have been actively focused on creating true diversity as well across our board and within our membership. We are actively pursuing and engaging in initiatives that support women in technology leadership to help close the gender gap. To more accurately reflect these broader aspirations, we have decided to retire the IS Associates name and identity and begin rebranding ourselves as Innovate at UCLA. I don't know if we have a slide for that, I hope we do. A program that inspires business innovation and research partnerships with emerging technologies. So the launch of this new name, logo, and brand are underway, and you will see these changes surfacing across our platforms and in our collateral over the next few months. In today's program, the Day of Innovation, is an example of the new kind of content we want to develop for our members and for our students. I think we have a few students here, which is great. We hope you enjoy the day, and in the process you have an opportunity to learn and share insights and make a number of new connections. So with that, I'd like to welcome our membership chair, Mr. Doug Goetz, fellow Dodger fan in mourning this morning, to introduce our opening panel. Doug?
Good morning, everybody. Welcome, and I'm glad to see you all here. I'm not going to do my standard membership minute today, but in lieu of that, we do have a table out there in the back where if you have any questions about membership, please feel free to stop by. It'll be manned in the breaks, and we're happy to answer any questions. But this is a super exciting time for Innovate at UCLA, particularly around the membership, because we're hoping to use the Innovate name to re-energize our two missions, which are recruitment, obviously. We want to leverage all of you and the connections and the people you know to try and spread the word about this awesome organization, and then member retention. So what we're doing is we're really doubling down on the university relationships and the resources and all that to try to make the programs even more valuable. I've been coming to these events now for 20 years and have been just grown up with this organization, and I'm really a fan of it, obviously, which is part of why it makes my mission as membership chair so rewarding. So please feel free to stop by. We'll, if you have any questions, basically the member companies, if you're a member, you can bring as many people to these events as the leadership of your company feels will benefit, which is awesome. And so that's sort of the great value prop. You can participate in these great events and these days. So that I would just like to now just turn it back over to the opening panel, and they're going to answer some questions up here. What is innovation? Why is it important to all of us? And what are some of the practical pathways to innovate? So I want to introduce, and we'll bring up in a minute, Heidi Pease, who is the CEO and co-founder of Los Angeles Blockchain Lab and CEO and co-founder of Proof of Art, Heidi Pease, and Charles Sims, the CIO of the Los Angeles Clippers, and Professor John J.B. Blevins, who is adjunct faculty at UCLA Anderson School of Management and principal at Navigation Pointe Advisory. So let's give them a round warm of applause and welcome. Welcome.
What we wanted to try to do is really help everybody get that set. This with a little bit of an idea of where we would go today. And really, innovation is so key in today's businesses. It's something that we had talked about earlier about what this means for our membership, what this means for the university. And it's almost as if it's part of a business requirement these days.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I think we're transitioning from this idea, especially in IT and those of us in the tech industry, that innovation is the next step for a lot of us to truly realize and transform value out of the departments that we're helping. We're now the internal advisors. We are changing how the company looks at technology, because these days every company is a technology company. There's no more, oh, well, we don't really need IT. We don't really need whether it's the cloud or any of that digital transformation because we just got industry, or we're a logistics company. No, those are some of the industries that are most well fit for innovation, for technology in these things.
Yeah, I think it's. Can you hear me? There we go. Technology. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor to be back at UCLA, my alma mater. So innovation is such an interesting topic coming from the blockchain space, because I often hear blockchain is an innovation looking for a solution, which is completely understandable given all of the hype and the over-exuberance about this technology. So I've spent the past 2 years meeting with numerous companies from all around the world talking about blockchain and what does it mean to innovate. And every time I talk to somebody, I find that innovation, there's a different definition of innovation. In fact, in 2013, there was a study published in the Journal of Systems and Software that there were over 40 identifiable definitions of what does innovation mean to a particular industry. So it's a challenge of, well, what does that innovation mean? And I think at the end of the day, we can all agree that innovation should be used as a catalyst for growth, at least in business. We got to look at innovation and how do we use innovation for growth. And in dealing, and again, I'm coming from this transformational technology. In dealing with innovation, we could start at the very basics, which is just meeting market needs and keeping up to date, to how do you use technology for disruption? And disruption happens quickly. It attacks the incumbent companies or the current systems, and at a lower price point. So think of something like an Uber, all the way to a technology that's more foundational and transformative. These technologies might take years to be implemented, but what they end up doing is changing entire paradigms. So we can think of the internet, which was actually born here at UCLA 50 years ago. 1970, 1969, it was quote unquote invented, but it wasn't until the mid-1990s that it really changed with mass adoption of the World Wide Web. And that's where we see something like blockchain and AI is nestled into that transformative technology. The difference though, and this is why it's critical that we all need to be aware of it, is that we have the piping and the wiring and the plumbing in place. And so this being aware of change, and we all need to realize that's the only constant is change. If we don't stay aligned with it, then we'll quickly fall to the wayside.
I think that's a great point, because a lot of people, when they're thinking innovation, digital transformation, they think products. Oh, we need this one big thing that's really going to do it. But in reality, just like you said, it's also the preparation. It's building those pipes, building those things, so when that thing happens, you're not completely blown away. Like, you can actually scale quickly, you can move quickly, you're not all on prem. You can actually bring stuff up in a very controlled way versus just this chaos, because you got this really great idea that you have no idea how to really implement. So like, that's actually, I think they're getting out of the mindset of, oh, we just need a good product. We just need a good product, versus like innovation can be around the entire organization, around the processes that you're building to be able to be ready for if that happens, or evolving something that might not be a revolution, but you can quickly evolve something that's really working well.
Yes, I've actually heard of innovation as both a process and a product.
Nah.
And a lot of times we'll talk to business leaders, and there's this fear of the disruption. I mean, it is a scary prospect to think, wow, things are going to be changing for us. How do you see businesses embracing that diversity, especially when you're out talking about blockchain, because it's so new to so many? How do business leaders say, wow, this is something I need to approach, not run away from?
Well, I can give you a perfect example of what happens if you don't embrace innovation. I worked for AIG for 15 years, that small company that I don't think people realize how big AIG was. At the time, prior to 2008, it was the 10th largest company by revenue. I was an underwriter when Hurricane Katrina hit, and we were told if we had to pay out on all of the claims, because AIG had their finger on everything, paying out on claims would cause a world recession. No company should be that big, right, to begin with. But needless to say, AIG was this 800-pound gorilla. I could pick up the phone and have a meeting with anybody like that because it was just the name AIG. The problem with that is the thought of innovating. Why do we need to innovate? We're the market leaders, we're top 10, so forth. Why do we need to innovate? And in fact, technology was looked at as the awful stepchild. We don't want to invest. We don't need to invest. We're AIG. Put that to the side. I was also involved with mortgage-backed securities, and the thing about AIG was the country's largest purchaser of mortgage-backed securities. The data, and this was not just AIG, this was the whole entire industry. The data that was transferred between companies was often outdated, incorrect, incomplete, and maybe that was by accident or not, who knows. At the end of the day, we had to take this data and make huge assumptions and projections based on incorrect data. And this is seriously problematic for a data-driven company. Fast forward 2008, we all know what happened. This comes to the question of, well, what would the world have looked like had industry been more embracing of technology? What would the world have looked like if we had a technology that would make sure data is immutable, transparent, real time, a la blockchain. And actually, blockchain was born out of 2008. So fast forward 2017, and I left in 2008. Fast forward 2017, I'm meeting with the head of global banking, AIG, New York City, and talking about blockchain. And what was really interesting is this company that said, technology, we don't need it, just hired a chief science officer, and that year they had hired more engineers than underwriters. So they were becoming this transformative, technology-driven company.
Absolutely. I mean, we see that in Goldman Sachs too. I mean, they're hiring more computer scientists these days than they are traders. And they're probably one of the ones that's leading it on Wall Street for sure. So, Charles, what about the NBA? They seem to be embracing technology at a far better pace than some of the other sports leagues. Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening?
Yeah, well, so in the NBA, one of the most innovative leagues, you have what's really cool about the NBA is even the businesses, they're really small. So you look at the NFL, you look at some of these premier leagues, these are massive, massive organizations where the entire Clippers is 180 people. Right, so the cool thing about that is you have this massive brand. You have really, really smart people all in one place, but you're very agile. You can flip. You can change. This is working. We're going to move to that. Or I mean, and the basketball side is very, very much the same way. You don't need to convince 20 or 30 different people to be able to move forward on a project. You need one or two, or some of it. It's hey, we trust you. Just go with it. And for me, specifically around innovation and technology, when I first came into the Clippers, I truly was IT. It was, we need somebody to fill that gap. We want to make sure our computers work. We want to make sure that we're moving to Office 365. But as I've started to position of like support is great, and there's a ton of value in support, but transforming that narrative into, oh, we have these 8 or 9 different service providers that are like, we have one of the most innovative owners in all of sports, and he has these great ideas, and then we didn't have any internal support to actually go through those ideas. So now we have 8 or 9 different solution providers that are all coming in, and no one is really managing those internally. No one's really connecting the dots across our entire infrastructure or our technology strategy. And then what we're realizing is once I started making some easy answers of, oh, you guys want to do digital signage? That's easy. That's just MDM to me. That's just one more thing that I can throw out wherever we want. And now we're deploying a 1,000-screen MDM signage for the new stadium. There's a lot of these things that you go to outside vendors and they're crazy expensive or they're really hard to do, and you get a lot of, oh, you can't do that. Oh, we've been in this industry for 20 years. So what's cool about this small organization is we can say, no, that's wrong. Let's just screw around with it. Let's try to figure something out. And with 2 or 3 guys that can throw at a problem, we figure that minimum viable product, great. Now we'll bring in a service provider to help the support side. So we can be the cool, innovative, fun stuff at the beginning and then find the support plan and bring, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to make sure that those 1,000 TVs are turned on correctly and the power supply. No, I want to make sure that they all connect up to our Azure Cloud. Media Services is pushing down, like fun stuff like that. So.
And you have an owner that really has embraced technology, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little bit of a background there.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, our owner is actually Steve Ballmer, ex-CEO of Microsoft. One of the big, influential, passionate guys. You see him on TV a lot, and yeah, he really drives innovation. What was cool was me flipping how he saw the original, my predecessors into no, like I want to be a partner. I want to be the guy that you say, hey, I need this, and it gets done. And that's what's kind of been cool with our department is as it's grown out of that just IT support into like tech business strategy, right?
And do they see you almost as a business partner? And
Yeah, I mean, and that's where I never would have thought I would be here, being able to talk about that. But yeah, like we're now talking a lot more of the business side of whether or not we should do projects rather than what's the cost, how many people do we really need to do this? It's like what value are we getting out of it? If we're talking about doing a potential VR experience within Staples Center, it's no longer hey just make sure it works. It's okay, you need to put together a business plan. Here's these 3 or 4 vendors that might be sponsorships. Now I'm going out to actually grab. Start to work with those potential sponsors as an IT guy. And so that's where like just adding a little bit of that flavor, that innovation of like we can do just about everything. We're now prepped for those conversations.
Yeah. Sounds like you become a part of the business team, not just the IT support team.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think part of making that happen is really understanding how to build an ecosystem around that. So you're perceived as an IT leader, that you are part of the business, that you're part of the innovation process that they have, not just someone there to help out, but actually helping drive innovation pieces. I've seen this in quite a few different ecosystems that I've worked in, and interestingly enough, it's been a lot with countries. Because a lot of countries will look at what we do in California, or they'll look at what's happening in Silicon Valley and go, I want to be that Silicon Valley. I want to be able to be as innovative as they are in the United States. And I've even done some work with France, with the new Macron government coming in and saying, you know, how can France be more innovative at a countrywide level? And to try to understand really what makes an ecosystem of innovation and what brings that about. You've got to have a visionary leadership role to say, I know what innovation can bring. And that's the ability to have a culture that embraces change. It embraces the unknown. It embraces failure, because that happens a lot with our innovation piece. Also the ability for us to have that innovation system of learning. And for most of those ecosystems, it's large universities that bring in great talent. So for the Bay Area, you have Stanford and you have Berkeley. Here we have Caltech and USC and UCLA, where you are today. It creates an ecosystem that is just, it just builds upon itself. It's the energy that the universities bring to the business sector that academia just does really well at. And then, especially in the Bay Area, if you want to pour fuel on that fire, it's capital. Throwing venture capital at various ideas and realizing many of them will fail, and that's okay. That challenge, that embracing of that culture really brings about the innovative process. And we see that overseas where failure is considered poor. We don't want to fail. We see that a lot in Asian cultures. We see it a lot in France. I'm doing some work with the Taiwanese government. They realize that their culture does really, really good job of creating chips. But they also know hardware is a race to the bottom. They want to go further up the stack, be more innovative, get more into the software world. And they're like, how can we create an innovative culture in Taiwan that allows us to be like Silicon Valley, to be as nimble as that is, to have our culture embrace that it's okay to fail, because every time you fail, you learn. And what I've learned is for us business leaders that are working in this space, especially this room where we understand IT, we understand the technology sector, to work with business leaders to help them understand the power of what this can bring, it's phenomenal. And I really think it's almost to our responsibility to build that ecosystem, that opportunity that allows it to come about. And you know, what better place to do that than in Los Angeles, because we're so incredibly creative in this space.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. I'm so impassioned about building the ecosystem, and for many reasons. So I've been fortunate where I have been traveling around the world, meeting with governments and Fortune 100 companies, discussing blockchain. And you know, there was one thing, culture. I've met time and time again, people will say, you know, you started in the United States as a little child selling lemonade on the street. Like, that does not happen in other countries. So we do have that cultural, it's built into us, in our DNA. But I am worried. I'm very worried about where we're going as a country and also as the city of Los Angeles, because other governments are putting in billions of dollars. And again, my lens is pretty much blockchain, billions of dollars focused on innovation. And realizing that maybe they don't have the most innovative, maybe they're afraid, their people are afraid to fail or whatnot, they're actually importing from the United States into those countries. I'm gonna put I have a startup. This is how attractive it is for me to go to another country. I've even been offered, bring your startup to my city, we will give you $250,000 like that, and we will match make you with all of the relevant service providers, and we'll even get you a dev team. That's unheard of. Like, why shouldn't I just go there? So I'm really worried. I see in blockchain startups fleeing the United States and going to Singapore, Hong Kong, Dubai, other places. So what do? So this is the challenge that I face at the LA Blockchain Lab. We're all about building this ecosystem in Southern California. Southern California should be the blockchain innovation hub of the world. And there are many reasons. We have more diversity of industry than any other part of the country. We have more engineers that graduate from these amazing schools than any other part of the country. We have more tech jobs than any other part of the country. I think we have we have the 44% of all goods and all goods that are brought into the U.S. come through LA and Long Beach Port. You just name it, industry over industry. We have powerhouses here, and I think that the biggest strength that we have here is the diversity of people. But the problem is we're not talking, and I know UCLA does a great job. Innovate at UCLA is doing a great job at bringing together government, business, and academia. But we're still not there yet. When I look at Northern California and New York, they really have focused on bringing together and collaborating between these three entities and bringing in the capital to make it work. So that's a big challenge I think that we face here in Southern California. And that's why it's really important to connect with organizations like Innovate at UCLA, LA Blockchain Lab, and so forth.
Yeah. I talked to my peers that are at Stanford, and I asked them, it's like, how does Google come from Stanford? How are you guys so creative there? And they say, oh, you know, the VCs from Sand Hill Road, they just come sit in class. I'm sorry, what do you mean they come sit in class? They said, yeah, they actually come to campus, sit in the class, they're looking for the next Zuckerberg or whatever. But that type of relationship, and also their professors go in and out of industry. You know, myself, I'm an adjunct professor. It's a part-time job for me. So we have to kind of build that ecosystem that says, you know, if we can bring the business community further into the academic world here, and not just us, Caltech, USC, and all the other 30-some plus amazing universities we have in Southern California, we can build that ecosystem even better. And I think that's what's required. And what we found is when companies come in, they realize the value themselves in making that happen. And it's just it's a remarkable engine of thought process, and that's where the innovation happens. That's where it comes through.
And to kind of go further on that, like what you've seen up in the Bay Area is it's a feedback loop. Success begets success. Once you have this massive tree that starts going down of one good venture blows up and now has like 5, and then you just have all these different people that thinks very similarly of failure is not bad. It's not an issue. And so my hope is, and as we've seen things like Bird down here, is you start to see it start to tip. But once we really get that relationship, that ecosystem moving, we start to see a lot more of those successes. Even I think it could just blow up 10 times quicker than what we're trying to do now. And I think that relationship with the universities is absolutely key because it's low liability, it's low cost. They want to do this, and universities for the past 50 years, no innovation, because that's what they're consistently doing. Mm-hmm. They've done these hackathons, they've done these innovation labs, and they know kind of that formula. They know how to attract the right people. Now companies need to start realizing like how to interact, how to actually tap into that pool, like Innovate at UCLA or these other nonprofits that you really can get a lot of value very quickly with.
And like Heidi said, we produce more engineers in Southern California than any other part of the world. And obviously I know a lot of students, work with a lot of students, and many of them would graduate with an engineering degree. I have one. And it would be like, we're going to the Bay Area. Because if I work with a startup and they don't make it, and chances are they won't, I can walk across the street and find another job, no problem. That is now here. With what we see in Silicon Beach, with what we're seeing with the venture capital that's coming into Southern California, we're not losing our engineers like we used to. They want to stay here. They realize that this system has changed, and that's part of all of us working together. And I don't see it as a competition, really. I see what the Bay Area does and what we do is very symbiotic because they are amazing at doing great technical stuff. We are extremely creative, and we're seeing this with this tech-media merger convergence that's happening. We are the epicenter of that. The creative energy that we have in this market to be able to generate things. Now, we don't create a lot of Fortune 500 companies, or if we do, they tend to move out because it's a little expensive here. But to start companies, nobody can beat us. We do an amazing job. And I think part of that is we have that ability to to try to create the clean tech incubator downtown, the blockchain innovators. We have 11 incubators here on UCLA's campus, accelerators and pre-accelerators. That type of environment will allow us to keep building, but it's all of our responsibility. We've got to come together and try to make that happen. But I see with the Hollywood entertainment group, with what we're doing with aerospace and what's all happening in that space, this market is primed for that. And I think what you said, the diversity of the people, the languages we have, and the wide variety of industry, from logistics to manufacturing to aerospace to obviously the Hollywood community and what's happening with streaming media. This is the place to be.
Well, and one of the benefits of those different industries is you're now seeing engineers that aren't always aerospace engineers. They're engineers going from aerospace to now they're moving over to Netflix to work with their infrastructure. They're now moving. So it's you're starting to diversify the thought of how these experiences, how they're growing up. And so instead of just like I've been a aerospace engineer my entire life, now I have all these different ways. So when I move into a new industry, I have these really cool ways to think about things, the norms that are different, and to bring those in. So they're in LA. There's nowhere else there's nowhere else in the world like we have in LA. Like you said, you have media, you have great sports, you have great aerospace, entertainment, technology, the universities. We have there's second to none, no one better than us. Yeah. No one better primed than us. We just need to get there.
I work with, yes.
Yes, I agree.
I work closely with the New York Economic Development Council and their New York Blockchain Center. And, in many ways, they have a lot of initiatives and a lot of collaboration, but they come to me and they say they're very jealous. They're jealous of Southern California because of what we have and what they don't have. Yes, we have the movie stars, we have the beaches, we have marijuana, but we're more than that, right? We're so much more. From, as you mentioned, aerospace to logistics, supply chain to healthcare. We have become the country's third or fourth most technical, innovative city in technology. So there's a lot that's happening here, but I think you hit something that said we don't have to be competitors with New York or San Francisco. We just need to focus on what our strengths are here in Southern California, and we have so many. So that's what I think, and I'll just step back a little bit. In the blockchain space, the ecosystem is San Francisco companies are very much focused on blockchain protocols. New York is very focused on financial services. For all the rest of the B2B and B2C opportunities, Southern California.
Yeah. And you can see that even in the advertising space. Half of Madison Avenue has a Playa Vista now. They realize this is where it's coming, and data scientists are running that part of that system because advertising is now all about data. And we have that capability to really embrace this. It's interesting you say that about New York. I also teach at Cornell Tech in New York. And that's the Cornell, okay, go Big Red. We, as you know, Mayor Bloomberg put his money where his mouth is to create that new campus. Google is out there, Apple is out there, Tata has a building named after themselves. So you see this really amazing joint effort between the city, between the university, and between various technology companies that want to do this. And the students go through a process, much like we do here at UCLA as well, where they'll create companies. They can move across to the next building, and there's like a WeWork space at the top. So their professor is just right across the alleyway that they can still keep getting some help. And it's this nurturing system that they do. We actually have that naturally. This just happens to come about. Many students come from UCLA. Half of the offices in Westwood are done by UCLA graduates. And then with Santa Monica and Upfront Ventures and the various venture capitalists that are right here at Silicon Beach, the west side of LA has just become an innovation hub. You see what's happening in Culver City with the streaming media pieces. You see what's happening down in Playa Vista with the software companies. Every major tech company is there. I see us being that glue, if you will. I think that what we do at Innovate UCLA really makes that effort come about between academia, between business, and between what's happening in the community here. And really, you have to realize, you're sitting at the #1 public university 3 years in a row, according to US News and World Report. So yeah, this is an incredible resource not to take advantage of, so please do so. Number 1 for diversity, number 4, I believe, for veterans. We just knock it out of the ballpark. It's not like these are elite kids that we're getting in, even though it's very hard to get out. I want to say our acceptance rate's around 19%. But most of the students that come here are first-time college attendees for their family. And we're very proud of that. And we're doing some amazing work. What we've accomplished in 100 years at UCLA, most schools have not accomplished in many more. So it's up to the business community to realize this great resource and say, well, how can I get involved with that? And that's what Innovate at UCLA becomes, that bridge, if you will.
So I was a child of the first person in my family to go, first and only person to go to college in my family, and I appreciate UCLA for that. But you brought up a good point about the universities are an excellent place to innovate and to collaborate. And the reason being for that is when I'm speaking, so in a technology like blockchain, it's all about transparency. You know, I know your cards, you know my cards. But the problem is, how do you move forward a technology when it's all about sharing? Maybe it's your secret sauce. And so we face this thing called co-opetition. How do we work together and you're my competitor, how do we work together and still progress? And that's where our universities are also very critical because it is this neutral playground in which companies can come to, and it's a trusted resource. So we finished a project for Lamborghini. Lamborghini came to us because we were able to pick from the different universities, professors and students, and they trusted them. There's so much distrust in my space, but they said, you know what, you're bringing in these professors. We trust them. They have nothing that they have to sell. And it was fantastic. So we were able to bring a group of us and go to Bologna, Italy, and meet with the entire seaboard and do a research project for them. And I know you work with Anderson, where I went to school, and there's a lot of consulting projects. But it's so important, especially in my technology, to have a resource that you trust and that's neutral, has no agenda to put forward, and is also research cutting edge.
Yeah. I mean, even at Anderson, we have a program. We have 4 different programs that run, but you can get 5 MBA students to work on a strategic issue for you for 6 months for about $20,000. It's an incredible deal, and the product that they produce at the end, which is the deliverable about where you should strategically go, is phenomenal. And we have one that they run year-round. We have 4 different programs. So, you know, it's really up to the business community to take advantage of that, because like you say, it's an incredible resource. We're Anderson, so we know, but yeah, the brain trust that's here is just remarkable, just remarkable. So Innovate UCLA, this is one of the things that we wanted to talk about a little bit too, so you can understand a little bit more. Why do people come to Innovate at UCLA? What's the benefits that they get being a part of this organization?
So as a new member, I've been here almost a year now, and this is one of the few networking organizations that I truly love to put my name on. I haven't met more influential, whether it's C-levels, directors, people in industry who are willing to talk about what they're doing. They're just not a talking head. I've been to a lot of these larger global CIO events, and it's people talking about, oh, we could do all these great things. Oh, this was the most amazing thing that we did, but they actually didn't do it themselves. They had 4 or 5 other people underneath them. Where here at Innovate, I feel like I can have an honest conversation with any CIO or CTO who will tell me how it is, give me advice, give me network. Hey, I want to introduce you to this guy, or this person helped us out with this project. Like, here's a great vendor that we use. And so UCLA, Innovate UCLA has been that network in a can that I really needed out here at the executive level, where I'm not surrounded just by salespeople. I'm surrounded by mentors. I'm surrounded by colleagues. I'm surrounded by other people who care as much about technology as I do. So that, to me, that was the biggest thing. I mean, hearing Don and his past, talking to Michael and talking to Davida, hearing how they got here was influential to how much I truly love this group and community.
Yeah, you can really come in and vet ideas across a variety of resources, a variety of industries, and then get some of the most world-renowned professors connection, PhD, people that literally wrote the book, to be able to bounce an idea off of. And that's just a phenomenal resource to be able to leverage. And I think it's one of the things that just makes this organization such a great place to be. So.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I had an opportunity to join an organization in Northern California, and so I'm fairly new to tech. I've only really been in it since 2017, and and when I say in it, I mean in blockchain. So I'm very blockchain focused. And I was invited to an event to an organization in Northern California, and they were 99% software engineers, and all having their own companies and so forth. In one of these conference sessions, speakers would get up and get heckled by the crowd, by the audience. It was a very competitive, why do I want to work with you? And so it was.
That's the Bay Area, by the way.
Right. So it was very daunting for me, for somebody who doesn't have an engineering background. I was the person who put the answer math up there on the screen. So that was very daunting for me. And when I met with Dawn and Davida and Rafi and how embracing they were for somebody who doesn't have a tech background, that was my first entree. And then afterwards, meeting all of these CIOs with such, in hearing about their industry and their how they're using technology is so amazing for me. I mean, even today, hearing about how the Clippers are using technology, I had no idea. And so I'm very appreciative of even the opportunity to, thank you for inviting me to be a part of it.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things we're trying to do here too. We've got a wonderful day spread out for you. There's some amazing, I was looking through the agenda, there's absolutely some amazing events coming on. JPL is with us today. I believe they're going to be doing a session on robotics in space and how that works. Talk about an interesting one there. Professor Shinerock is here. He's doing one that'll give you an example of how you build versus buy on innovation. I mean, if you're going to be embracing this scenario within your corporation, you might say, wow, do I have the ability to be able to do that internally? Or should I just go acquire that capability? That's a big decision for a business leader to be able to take advantage of. And quite a few others.
We have something around AI and machine learning early on. The digital operating room, which is a pretty cool thought. I mean, I've worked with CHLA about like innovation and just hearing about all the intricacies of how technology is within operating room. That'll be a really interesting one. Smart manufacturing is definitely going to be a big one for UCLA. I believe there was something big that we just had with the Institute with smart manufacturing lately. Is that right?
It's just
The Clean Energy Smart Manufacturing Institute. The Clean Energy Smart Manufacturing Institute. Innovation Institute. Ask Davida if you want to. No. And then, like you said, JPL, the talent considerations. I think we brought in somebody from BCG to talk about what are companies looking now for talent when they're looking at innovative individuals. It's no longer just the engineer. It's the engineer who can kind of think more business side or think product side. And so that's kind of cool to see that. And then utilizing new technologies for innovative customer offerings around AI and autonomous vehicles. And then finally, I think our closing panel is the challenges we face when building new tech. The ethics of AI, data privacy. I believe Google is going to be one of the ones that's speaking about that. And then we'll have a networking reception in the lobby a little bit afterwards.
Well, sounds like a great day. And it's a nice thing to have that good mixture because human capital is so important to making this happen. And then really as business leaders, we've got to realize, do we use the data? How do we use the data? Is it in the right context? Would our clients or customers appreciate how we used it if they knew? So do we make that right ethical decision? And we bring that into every class that we do here at UCLA as part of the provost design to make sure that we're pushing out leaders that understand that they have a greater, view on how things work and not just, do things just for profits, but rather do the right thing. So that's very key. So.
Yeah, I mean, and even within that is not just like we have CCPA coming out. A lot of us have dealt with GDPR. Yeah. There's the bare minimum, and there's actually building for what might be next, or what's truly ethical and what is appropriate. So
yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like a fantastic day, and we want to thank Google for being such a great sponsor for us to help us out here as well. Apogee Google Cloud has been a part of that. Do we have speakers from them?
So I believe we have, if we could have, who's speaking from Google Cloud? Oh, Chris Hood, the digital value lead from Google Cloud. Could we have you stand up?
Is Chris with us?
I don't think he's here just yet. Do we have Ryan Bodkin? Ron's not here. Chelsea Peterson? All right, well, you guys will meet these lovely young folks a little bit later today.
Yeah, part of what we do is we really want to interact with the major corporations. You saw when Doug put this slide on screen how many organizations are represented within our own group. But Innovate UCLA wants to be that outreach. We want to be able to be the ones that says, we understand the academic side of this. We can make those connections for you. I know we've done that with the Nano Institute, and they've done some amazing work. And you look at UCLA, we've got an amazing business school, an amazing law school, amazing med school, and an incredible engineering school. And you bring those four things together with all the other colleges that are on campus, it's an incredible opportunity for us to work together. And we have partnerships with Google and with other technology companies that can really help us embrace that and really make a difference in society. And I truly feel it's all of our responsibility to make LA that innovative ecosystem, to really embrace it ourselves. And I'm hoping this day will be one of those that gives you new thoughts, new ideas of how you can move forward in a variety of things, from talent to the ethical decisions around data as well. So.
Absolutely. All right, well, thank you, everyone.
All righty, thank you so much and enjoy
Thank
the
you.
day. Thank you.
Thank you again. So one thing that I just wanted to say real quick, as a new sponsorship chair here at Innovate at UCLA, I really embrace what the sponsors have done for us. They allow us to have events like this, and they're actually providing value to our members as well. They're not just here to pay for today; they're here to be value add, to be resources. If you ever need anything, they're going to be people that you can reach out to. And so first I want to thank Magenic. We have Dan Brown and Adrian Kearns there in the back left, that bright green. Magenic is a business technology consulting firm that helps deliver your digital products and solutions faster. For 25 years, they've developed long-term partnerships, leveraging agile frameworks to accelerate their results. Their key capabilities include digital product consulting and experience design, application development and integration, DevOps, quality engineering and automation, cloud platform, and microservices. And that's what they asked me to say. But as somebody who has started to actually interact with Dan and Adrian, they truly have been a good resource. They haven't tried to hard sell me on anything. They've been building a relationship, which as somebody who gets hit up all the time from sponsors, it's really valuable. So for any of those of you who just want to hear what they have to say or just want to talk about a problem, they have 4 free Clippers tickets to take you out to a game. Please go and say hi, and I'd love to introduce you guys to them personally if you want. So thank you, everything. We also have P1 Technologies, who, are they here? They're not here right now, but they would be hopefully soon. Established in 2009, P1 Technology is an innovative IT consulting team of enterprise architects with deep cloud expertise. Our mission is to provide unsurpassed value to our clients through the alignment of their business goals and IT infrastructure. We employ proven methods to determine the right balance of on-premise and cloud infrastructure for a total solution that is seamlessly integrated, simple to manage, scalable, and reliable. P1 is proud to serve more than 150 clients in Southern California and beyond, including industry leaders in media entertainment, public sector, higher education, energy, life sciences, engineering, semiconductor, and retail. Again, Matt is a great friend of mine, so hopefully once he does get here, I'll introduce him to a few of you as well. Thank you.